All right, good afternoon, everyone. I apologize for the late start. I turned over the controls to Mr. Weeks. And even though my name says Marsha A. Ellison, president of the NAACP Fort Lauderdale Broward, she is away at doing work for the national. She's in session now. She's a national officer, so she's not with us. She has an excused absence to do that. So I'm going to be spearheading, and Mr. Weeks, thank you for agreeing to take over the controls for me. I'm the least technical person that I absolutely know. At this time, I'm going to ask the board members if you can turn on your cameras. If you cannot, make sure you're on mute unless you're speaking. Have Major London, she's checking in now, so this is good. We do have a quorum and we can conduct business. At this time, I'm going to ask that you all introduce yourselves, and welcome to everyone that's looking on. We're going to try to get you in, but we are live. So if you do self-introductions, and then we'll move on with the business of the board. Judge Rabola, why don't we start with you?
Good afternoon, Judge Carlos Rabola, Circuit Court Judge. I've been in the delinquency division, juvenile delinquency division, for quite some time now.
Mr. Weeks?
Gordon Weeks, representing the Office of the Public Defender. I'm the public defender.
Colonel?
That's Colonel David Holmes of the Broward County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Executive Director for the Department of Law Enforcement.
Good afternoon, Ms. Mashallah.
Good afternoon, Gloria Moschella, Chief of the Juvenile Division of the State Attorney's Office.
Major?
Major Victor London, Fort Lauderdale Police Department, Chief's Executive Officer.
Right. Senator?
Good evening, family. I apologize. I'm in my car. I am the state senator that proudly represents Florida District number 32, member of the state's pre-K to 12 committee, Community Affairs Committee, to name a few, and fiscal policy. And it's good to be on with my family today.
It's good to have you. Mr. Walters?
Roosevelt Walters, and I work at the whims of the chair. And when she said jump, I jump. And when she don't say come down, I find something to hang on to.
And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Walters is a past president of the Fort Lauderdale NAACP. And Mr. Obel, are you in Dallas? Are you okay?
I'm driving. But Mike Obel, CEO of Community-Based Connections, community stakeholder.
Right. And I'm Alona Holmes, representing NAACP on behalf of this board, and I chair the board. At this time, I'll entertain a dual motion to approve the agenda. I do recognize that there's a correction to be made. Today is May 10th. Okay. But with that correction, can I get approval of the agenda and the minutes from April 12th of the last meeting? Yes.
We need to do a roll call.
We did, and I can see, that's why I had you all to do self introductions. That was the roll call also. I apologize. We're still trying to get people. We do have attendees now. I see Mr. Weeks. Okay, so
I see 29 people attending, and you only did, I think, 8 board people. I believe there's a couple of more out there.
We did 9 board members, and that includes me also. But we don't normally introduce attendees, Mr. Walters. We only introduce the board for these meetings. Otherwise, we'll be here all afternoon. People
no, and I agree. But is there any other board members? No, just 9.
No. That's why I have Mr. Weeks with the control. He's got a list of the board members. So he knows who to let in. And if you're a board member, you'll be brought over to the screen side. If you're attendee, we'll just leave you on the attendee side unless you're doing a report to the board. Okay.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second it.
There's a motion to approve the agenda. There's a second. I think Mr. Weeks, you seconded. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, any opposition? please let me know. Hearing none, the agenda is approved. What about the minutes of April 12th, 2023?
Move to accept the minutes as written or with corrections.
All right.
So,
Well,
second it.
I'll ask for a friendly amendment. Our minutes are no longer written, they are recorded.
I should
With
record
the
it.
video, okay? So you'll accept that amendment. So there's a motion for the acceptance of the recorded minutes of the April 12th, 2023 meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Judge Rebolo has seconded. All in favor, any questions before we go to vote? Okay, all in favor indicate by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Any opposition? All right, hearing no opposition, the motion carries. All right, at this time, I want to read the norms. Even though everybody follows them, I firmly believe that the first time that I don't read them, something's going to happen. So we're going to ask you to place your cell phones on the vibrate mode or turn them off. Make sure that your volume is turned down. Raise your hands in order to be recognized, or just get my attention some kind of way. As Mr. Walters does, he'll say, Madam Chair, and that's fine. Also, I'm going to ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less, unless you are presenting. If you're making a presentation, of course, I expect you to go beyond the allotted 3 minutes, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to be heard. Also, I need you to, and I will ask you to respect the opinions of others who are on this meeting, in this meeting. We don't always agree, but we can do it respectfully. And please remember to address all board members respectfully, and I'll do my best with Mr. Obel. Okay. All right, this time it would be the chair's report. My report is going to be very, very short. The secretary and we have met with some representatives from the Broward schools, but we are anticipating a meeting with Dr. The interim superintendent. That's what I want to say. And so as soon as we get that date, again, we'll let you know. That would be Dr. Smiley, that we really want to meet with her. But you do know that there's some influx and turmoil going on, but they're still passing and doing things. And we're going to be discussing a couple things later on this afternoon that the school board has adopted and that they're going to be doing. So that is my report, which is really no report, but I do want you to know that I am working, I'm attending meetings, and I'm present for the CAB or for the NAACP. At this time, is there a report from the Alternative Prevention, Mr. Obel? It says Judge Holmes, but I forgot to delineate to the secretary that that's going to be Colonel David Holmes, not Judge Holmes. So I think maybe she forgot there were 2 Holmeses on the committee. So any update on that alternative preventative issues that we met and discussed? Mr. Obel gave a report last month, but I needed to find out if there's any follow-up to what's going on, especially in that Deerfield, Pompano area. Colonel Holmes or Mr. Obel?
Yes. So we last time I reported that we have not heard from the chief of that area. As of last week, we did hear from him. So he introduced my leadership to his new executive director of community engagement. I'm not sure that's the official title, but that's how it sounds like what it's going to be. But nothing have happened yet. We're just waiting for another meeting date. And so we'll be moving from there. So there's nothing really to report.
Okay.
Yes,
Colonel
Madam.
Holmes, can
Yes,
you facilitate that? I really want to get something done because the summer is upon us.
yes.
And if we can start something to keep these kids engaged and active, that will help out a great deal.
Yes, just recently, we've had a change in the Deerfield district. We've had some lieutenants move around, and we promoted a new lieutenant there. That's the executive officer that Mr. Obel and his organization is going to be dealing with and working closely. The new executive officer, he is a former sergeant there who has a lot of ties into the Deerfield area. He knows a lot of people. So it's going to be very, very beneficial. That's one of the reasons why we made this move. I think the community is going to benefit from it. But I'm going to make sure that he gets with Mr. Obel to make sure we get that ball rolling, because I had reached out to the captain and I told the captain, I said, hey, we had a meeting. This, don't hesitate on this. Let's get it going. I know he reached out to Mr. Obel, but we got to get more traction. And I guarantee you we're going to get more, especially with this new executive officer. Another quick thing I wanted to add to that, and it's not just the Deerfield Beach area, but all over the county. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the Broward Faith Network and Mr. Johnny Sanders from DJJ. And I had our Youth and Neighborhood Services unit meet with them as well. It was a group of us that met with them. And it was very, very positive. And there's a lot of things that we're going to do to start up an engagement with the youth to make sure that us in law enforcement can do positive things to educate them and work with them to prevent them from crossing that line. As we all fully aware, the spike in gun violence is out of control, and we in law enforcement, we see it. And I know a lot of the local agencies look to us at the sheriff's office as taking the lead, and that was one of the reasons why we had this meeting. So we're going to be doing some things, and hopefully we can partnership with some other agencies and some other organizations to address it. So those are things that's coming down the pipe, and we're going to stand on top of it. And I will, on our monthly meetings, I'm going to brief everyone on that as well. The Broward Faith Network and what we're doing with them, as well as Mr. Obel's organization. If anyone else has any other organizations that they would like for us to work with and partner up with, please don't hesitate to let me know, because we have several members in our Youth and Neighborhood Services unit that are well connected and that can bring resources to the table.
Dr. Osgood, I'm sorry, Senator Osgood.
Thank you, Judge Holmes, and thank you so much for sharing that. I certainly would like to be involved representing Mount Olive Development Corporation, and as the state senator, I am extremely concerned now that everybody can be armed with the gun. They don't have to have a permit. They don't have to get a background screening. And I've done some extensive research on states that have put this law into place. And what you see drastically is two things. Actually three things. It drastically increases the number of Blacks that die by gun violence for homicides. You see white male suicide increase, and you see the rate of youth suicide increase. And I co-sponsored a bill to stop kids from having access to social media during school. I believe that social media has a major role in the gun violence and what we're seeing. So I would love to be a part of those meetings, those groups, as well as look for opportunities that we can get state funding. I know that there's going to be $10 million released from the state at some point to deal with gun safety. If you can't beat them, join them. If they're going to release the guns in the streets, then we need to do gun safety, where we're teaching parents to lock up their guns. We're trying to get messages to our children. So I would very much love to be a part of that, and hope that Broward can actually be a model for the entire state.
Mr. Obel and Colonel Holmes, can you make sure that the senator gets notified of your meetings?
Okay, and I will reach out to Mr. Sanders too, to make sure that Dr. Osgood is included into the calendar invites for those meetings.
Right. Well, I know whenever there's a mention of state money, that's one of the problems that we are trying to address, that our kids, whether they have done a crime or not, they get put into a computer system where law enforcement could track them and determine that they should be profiled in the future for future dangerousness. And so we're really trying to avoid that. We have Mr. Starling looking into that. He told me at the last meeting that he had sent a letter to the Secretary Hall's office, who is the secretary of DJJ, to find out if there's a workaround. I understand if a child has committed a crime and Judge Robolo and the other juvenile judges put them in a program that's DJJ funded in part. That's how DJJ keeps track of their money, and they come up with statistics. But what about those children who are not problems in their classrooms? They just have parents that have to work and they don't want them home alone, and they go to play basketball. They're going to be in their name and address entered into a computer and sent up to JJIS just because they play basketball, but they're not a problem at all. So Mr. Weeks, pick it up from there. I know that was first and foremost on your mind. I saw it.
Oh, Judge, you're a mind reader today, I must say, but thank you, Madam Chair. We need to educate the community on community contact cards. Law enforcement, y'all know those terms that they use, that sometimes you have an interaction with law enforcement and they will fill out a card with your biographical data, and they will keep that informally within their units or the particular suppression teams, and they will develop intel on you. And that is a common practice in law enforcement to develop that type of info. But what I also want to transition on is during the summer, we're all aware that children are going to be out of school, and the likelihood of them being in the community is going to be higher. However, I want to make sure that everyone in the virtual world is aware that traditionally, every single school year during the summer, arrests go down during the summer. And I would like us to track that this year as well to see if that phenomenon continues to be active. Because if you're having arrests decrease during the summer, but they're higher during the school time, then we need to start to figure out why is that correlation with school causing an increased number of arrests. That's the first thing. The second thing is traditionally every summer, there are various different organizations through Children's Services Council, the county government, Career Source, that offer job placement opportunities specifically for children. Because you have to recognize the employment environment that we're in now. The traditional jobs that children would be seeking, like working at Burger King or McDonald's or Wendy's during the summer, or being a bag boy or a bag girl at Publix, they're competing with adults for those jobs now. So we need to, if anyone is available on the community or listening online that's aware of any job opportunities specific for children, let the folks on the board know so we can get that information out to the general community. Because we need our children to be employed, to be active, to be engaged in whether it's a job or a club or a activity during the summer, other than just playing basketball at a basketball court or being idle with their hands, because we know what idle hands, what that means. So traditionally, every year we've had those announcements. I've not seen any as of yet come through my email box about any job-specific opportunities for children. But if any one of you board members or members of the community learn of those types of things, please make that available so we can get it to our children to make sure that they're gainfully employed in either an activity or a job opportunity or an internship opportunity, so they are getting some benefit out of the summer.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Odell.
A few things. One, to go to point, the other part to that is that they're funding out there. There's a group of us where if an employer hire a child, we pay a portion of that cost for that employer. And so that's through some of my collective partners. And if we identify those employers, we are more than happy to bring those extra dollars to the table. I think the big thing is finding an employer that want to hire our kids, and where they'll allow us to pay a portion of their salary, right? or their hourly rate, whatever the case may be. So that's the other opportunity that we're bringing to the table, is a lot of this effort of what we're trying to do in Deerfield and the rest of Broward County as well. And so to Gordon Point, if we can identify the employers and also identify those kids and match those individuals, I think that'll create a better opportunity than what we're currently facing as of right now.
Do you have a flyer of some sort that, you know, I know a few mayors that could post it in their cities and have their youth put to work.
Okay.
Now, is yours countywide or is just Deerfield and Pompano?
No, we can do countywide.
That's
I can get.
excellent.
I'll
If you can get me some information, I can get you. I'm pretty sure I can get you some people to go to work.
And the only thing we ask is that folks are receptive of our children, because we all know they are learning. This is a learning opportunity for many of them. So I really don't want to send our kids into an environment where they're going to get mistreated and someone's not going to take time out to teach them, right? So I'm very sensitive to that. And so we just want to make sure folks are going to really give our kids an opportunity to learn. Those are the kind of settings we want to make sure our kids are in.
I agree. Dr. Senator Osgood.
Thank you, Judge Holmes. And Mr. Obel, I will gladly take a student that you guys find and pay for in my district Senate office. I employed students all throughout the session. That's something that I'm very, very intentional about. And I don't want to say this, certainly I honor all students, but I prefer it not be an honor roll student. And I think you can read between the lines. But please just let me know. My office is there. My staff is ready. We're prepared to train and develop. I have resources that can help get suits, skirts, and jackets if we need to do that. But I would love the opportunity to have a student in the Senate office throughout the summer, that it can be some type of paid internship. I kind of restructured my money for session and hired students through OPS. Actually a student from Mentoring Tomorrow's Leader that I knew from 9th grade that's now a senior that just graduated actually this weekend at Florida State. So that's something I'm very intentional about. And I too can share that information with other legislators. We all do e-blasts. We have big databases that we communicate to, that we can recruit and make sure that money is spent and that the children that really need it get that money. So I'm very excited to hear about that program and look forward to getting additional information. And I'll lead by example, and I'm gonna throw a little shade. The other elected officials that's on the line, you know, I'm expecting you to match and have a student in your office too.
Do you have an age limit? You know, hello, this is Senator Osgood's office. This is a
Well, you know, I'm a
speaking.
millennial born in the wrong generation, so my office is very intergenerational.
I hear you. I hear you. Look, Major London, is there any Fort Lauderdale money? Can y'all help out in your city?
There are programs, and I will email the information to Mr. Obel.
Sounds good. Excellent. And Mr. Obel, if you'll share with us, we'll try to find you bodies. We'll get the students in, and we'll make sure, even if I have to show up, to make sure that they're not being mistreated and abused. You know, they're workers, not slaves. So I understand.
Yeah. And Madam Chair, it's really just, I have witnessed these teenagers go on jobs and try to learn, and someone get up having a bad day, and it's the first experience for many of them to have a real world experience, right? And so just want the employers to be cautious of that as we move forward, because they will
Colonel
leave.
Holmes, I'm sorry, Mr. Obel, I guarantee you that if this board is participating and has anything to say about any programs that we're soliciting and those children go in there, if they're being abused and mistreated, we will make sure something's done. All right, and I'll get with President Ellison. I know that the NAACP, we have a student corps, our youth division. We certainly would love to employ some of them, get them involved with you important people. in the
Right.
community. I mean, anybody can walk into Wendy's and get a job, but if they can say on their resume, I worked with Dr. Senator Osgood's office for the summer, or I
Right.
was with Mr. Obell for the summer, or I was with Colonel Holmes, especially Mr. Weeks's office. Everybody's trying to get into his intern program, and I'm trying to get them in too. So, you know, you may have to expand that program, Mr. Weeks, a little bit, because everybody now is starting to hear about your internship program, and that's not paid, is it? Okay.
Madam
Yes,
Chair,
Mr. Obell. Yes.
one more thing. So it was Monday, we had a young lady, 19 years old, who was, unfortunately, she's homeless and with a child, and we was able to get her housing through one of our collective partners. So if you come across, especially Mr. Weeks and the law enforcement team on here, and prosecutor office as well, if you come across a child who is with a child that is homeless, please notify our office so we can make sure, one, we can get them shelter, and two, we can try to provide some stability so we can get that child back on the right track and get them in school if they need to get back in school, or whatever the case may be. Because we have these Beacon of Hope dollars, and literally the money, if I don't spend it, I'm gonna have to send it back. So that's a real reality. And so we spent quite a bit this year, but I have 25,000 additional dollars for concrete support for families that's in a 1-1 zip code, 1-3 zip code, and adjacent cities, just adjacent zip code. So if you come across a family member, a child, single parent that's out in the street, homeless, please notify us so we can wrap our arms around them. So, I mean, the money's gonna be gone one way or another, but I really want to make sure it hits the area that we originally designated for.
Okay. Colonel Holmes, what have you got?
Yes, Mr. Elbell, just to add to that, I forward your contact information to Lieutenant Cade up in Deerfield Beach. He's going to be contacting you very soon. I think it's very important because in law enforcement, we come across situations like that where people are having issues. And I think it'll be important for you to work with the lieutenant and the captain there, so our deputies are aware that there are organizations like yours that can provide assistance when they come across a situation where a child or a family is in desperate need of assistance. So let's definitely get that going. But you should be hearing from him soon, today or tomorrow.
Okay.
Hey, Miss Mashala, does the state attorney's office have like a summer youth program where the kids can come in and intern with some of your supervising attorneys, or even your line assistants? I had an intern when I worked for Janet Reno. She came in for the summer. I took her to court with me. She did some filing. She liked the research. I had her, back then we had the volumes of the Southern Seconds that you had to go pull. And I taught her how to shepherdize stuff. So, and then she went on to law school. This was a high schooler. She went on to law school. I still keep in touch with her. So y'all got something that you can put together for the summer? I'm just trying to keep the kids off the street and out of DJJ custody.
Judge, we do have a training unit that we will occasionally get high school students. We get some undergraduate college students. I've had kids that I know through my own kids come in and shadow. We're always open to, I can always reach out to our training director. If we can do something, we're, of course.
Okay, if you all can, we need to be creative.
Madam Chair, I think there's one more opportunity here.
What's that?
If I can get the public defender, the chief public defender, and the prosecutor, Mr. Pryor, and the law enforcement get together, I would be willing to fund a 8-week summer camp, a 6 to 8 week summer camp, to be housed somewhere in a district. Because right now it's hard to find an office that can house the 8-week summer program for teenagers, particularly. If we can find a location, BSO got a location they're not using, or the prosecutor office or whoever have an office. Fort Lauderdale, I know Fort Lauderdale got a whole lot of high rises going up, but if there's office available, I'm more than willing to fund a 6 to 8 week program where the kids will receive a hot meal as well, and get some learning experience, some career learning experience as well. So if that's willing to, if we can get the body to collectively come together on something to that, I'll be more than happy.
And not only them, but the faith-based community. If y'all make that announcement in these churches, that's where Dr. Osgood, Dr. Senator Osgood can come in handy to help you all. The minute that's announced in church, those things normally fill up. So there is, you know, the harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few. So if we can just get you all to collaborate, and keep in mind the senator does, she's the director and the head of the ModCo. And they're right there in the community on Sistrunk. So there's a lot of collaborative efforts that can be, you know, put together. So I encourage you all, you know, you all are not discussing board, you know, business, except this is a project that the board is trying to get together to keep our children
Absolutely.
out of DJJ custody over the summer, because if they get bored, they do stupid things. Okay, so we'll see what we can do. So y'all collaborate, and if you all need me to come and meet, invite me to the meetings. I do show up. I really promise you I will keep on top of this. Mr. Walters, you have any ideas? What did you all do in the past? I know the NAACP was real instrumental in the past. Did I lose you, Mr. Walters? Okay, there you go.
What we did, Madam Chair, is that, you know, we had several programs, and we went out to the banks, to the police departments, the sheriff office, large businesses, and as the gentleman said, you know, they can sponsor a 8-week training program. Well, we had a 2-month training program, and we had our partners to waive any past situation. In other words, you robbed somebody, but you know that was 2 years ago. You went to prison, or you were sent to the NAACP office to serve your time. However, and you did that successfully, the employer would waive that violation that you had until such time that you did something similar. And I will tell you, and I'm very proud of it, at one time we had 28 young men and women that was in trouble and found themselves in college because of programs that was geared to making a positive difference. So there's a lot of work that can be done by a lot of people. And like you said, you know, we all need to work together to make good, right, and just things happen in numbers that we can point to and say, see, we made a difference.
Yeah. That's something, Mr. Obell, I'm kind of like letting you spearhead this. So at our next meeting, hopefully you'll have some good news to announce that you got
Madam
too
Chair.
many people and too few dollars. That's always a good sign that it's working.
No, Madam Chair, I'm all for the collaboration across the board with everyone on this. You know, so whatever we need to do, I'm more than happy to bring the collective together so we can, with all the parties at the table. I think it'll be a great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything else, Mr. Obell and Major London? Okay, great.
Yeah, I would like for Mr. Obell to share his contact information.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
All right. Use your real name this time, okay? So we'll know. All right. Any questions of Colonel Holmes or Mr. Obell? Any questions of those two? And thank you all for stepping up and wishing to share and collaborate. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on to update. As you know, last meeting, we had a presentation from DJJ regarding the collection of data as it relates to Broward County. And they have a lot of data. And so we were invited to put together a committee to collect information on the data and report back to maybe we can solve some problems or even find that there's some needs there that are not being met. I think Mr. Weeks became the ex officio chair of that data collection committee. So Mr. Weeks, we had others who volunteered and some were voluntold. According to my notes, we had Mr. Weeks, Mr. Walters, Ms. Phillips, and Ms. Mashallah. Those are our board members who volunteered. And then Mr. James was voluntold on behalf of the Office of the Public Defender. Ms. Gaynor became the chair's appointment she volunteered, but I was going to ask her to do it anyway. So she's the chair's appointment to that committee. And then of course, Mr. Stalling from DJJ. So I understand that there was a meeting of that subcommittee. So can you report on that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, I was unavailable due to some illness for the first meeting. I have promoted Mr. James and Ms. Gaynor, who were the two chief data folks on that committee to do the report. I'm going to allow Mr. James to do the report first, and then I'll ask Ms. Gaynor to chime in and fill in all the gaps that Mr. James may have left out. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. And after he's done his report, you can move him back to his cubbyhole where he loves to go.
I will, Judge.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much.
You don't know how much Texas I was getting.
I want to keep him happy. All right. Good afternoon, Mr. James. We're ready for you.
Tell you, I feel for those individuals that have to go into solitary because it's just not a good place to be. So being on the other side, it feels like solitary over there. But I'm glad to be amongst the folks with a voice. Thank you all. So we did have a meeting last week regarding the information or the data that was provided to us by DJJ. And we pulled out, or I asked that we look at 3 specific things. So to report back to the board here, the 3 things that we're going to look at. The one thing, well, excuse me, I'd be remiss if I don't say is really was 4. However, I just don't know how we address my biggest issue, which is the issue which shows that there is a large disparity between African-American males and any other sector group that we look at. African-American males lead every statistical information that was provided by DJJ. So that's with commitments, arrest, length of stay, and I'm gonna be quite frank, DJJ can provide us with every number in the world. However, I'm not sure that there's something that we can come up with that would address that. I think that's more of a societal issue. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that one, but that's an issue nonetheless. Now, but the ones that we could look at from the data perspective, Circuit 17 it was showing that it was like 91 or 92% efficient with providing alternatives to arrest, which is a great number. So when we look at this, when we say we're doing a good job in Circuit 17 without allowing children to be arrested, you feel good about that. But the problem with that number that just scared me was that because if you look at every other circuit, Circuit 17 was almost doubling the amount of children that were coming in contact with law enforcement. So the closest numbers you had was, I believe, Circuit 20, which had 1,296 kids that came in contact with a law enforcement officer of some kind, whereas Circuit 17 had 1,934. Well, so when we look at the numbers a little bit greater than that, 1,300 of the numbers of people that receive alternatives to arrest, 1,300 came from the Broward County School Board, the Broward County Police Department, as they say, which raised a red flag to me and other members of the board who saw this number, because as being a former student here in Broward County, I don't remember ever seeing a school board officer. So that was a little alarming. And so we asked DJJ to provide us the data for this information regarding because alternatives to arrest will be a civil citation. So when is the Broward School Board issuing the civil citation? Because also Ms. Gaynor reported that none of the participants that she's working with are actually a part of her organization. So all of the people that that the children that are with the county, none of them are coming from the school board. So if the school board is providing a civil citation, which is considered to be an alternative to arrest, how is this being happening? Like who's responsible for what requirements or what of anything they would have to do in order to meet that expectation of them for the civil citation. So usually a child is asked to do community service hours, participate in some type of program of some kind. So how is that happening with the school board? I just think that that number was extremely alarming, that we have juveniles, our youth here in Broward County, having 1,900 youth having contact with law enforcement, just too many. The other issue that we looked at, and we're asking for the Department of Juvenile Justice to provide us with some type of information, is that of misdemeanor arrest. Of misdemeanor arrest, assault and battery led the way, with more than about 80% of the misdemeanor arrests in Broward County, Circuit 17, were for assault and battery. So we asked to look at that information, and because we want to see if that is domestic violence related or these are school related fights or incidents that are happening there as well. And we were assured that we potentially would get that information. And then the last thing that we wanted to look at was commitment. So in Circuit 17, 66% of the youth that were committed from the bench, they were either low or moderate in terms of ability to reoffend. So what that says to me is that these are individuals who are less likely to commit another offense, but yet they were committed to a Department of Juvenile Justice program. Now, that may be because oftentimes we have children resolve cases to commitment in lieu of being charged as an adult. And sometimes those children this is their first offense. So I understand how that number may read, but to accept it and not know it is just a little scary for us, or definitely scary for me. So I would want to look at some of the information that DJJ can provide us regarding that number, that 66% number, because that's kind of high to say that for children are less likely to reoffend for them to be sent to a commitment program. So those are the 3 points that we looked at. We were promised by Ms. Butterfield that she would get us some information. I think we are waiting for her to provide the information related to the data before we meet again, and then we'll have another meeting, and then hopefully we can come up with some type of proposals to the board as to how we could address these issues.
I have a hand up, Dr. Senator Osgood.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask y'all to give me a little grace. I'm gonna try not to lose it right here. I learned last week that Broward County schools, behind all of our bike, changed the Promise program. So now when any kid gets sent to Promise, they're given a civil citation. I think we need to find out at what point, under whose administration, how that happened. It wasn't a discussion with the community. And hearing the statistics that Mr. James gave really alarmed me, because you have somewhere a little over 1,800 students that go to Promise every year. And I can imagine it's more this year because we just came out of a pandemic. So when you say 1,900 students, so now they have something in place. Anytime a child goes to Promise, they get a civil citation. So what that cleverly does is it cleverly sets Promise up not to meet the goals of Promise. The mission statement and goal of Promise was to keep kids out of the system. So it's a very undermined, slimy way to get rid of the Promise program, because when you measure the data at the end of this year, it's going to show that Promise did not meet its original goals, because it was to be no recidivism, kids not to be in the system. But some kind of way, once that information started being put in the Department of Juvenile Justice database, somebody changed something that those children were also put in the civil citation database. It is something that I'm very interested in getting to the bottom of it. I am appalled by it. It has been a tremendous harm done to our community since the shooting at Parkland and the attack on Promise, which was one of the best programs that we had. And we have the data to show how it kept our kids out of jail. We cannot allow our school system in Broward, and I ain't taking no hostages. I don't care if they cousins, whoever. We cannot allow Broward to come back to being the leading district in the state that's locking our kids up and putting them in the system when we proved for the last 6 or 7 years that we had a program that would not do that. So the little birdie is saying it ain't Petey Tracy who lie all the time, but the little birdie is saying that they're now dismantling Promise and they're going to send those alternative students to Lanier James and another school to be a part of those programs. So this is something that we need to aggressively get on. We need to make the public aware of it, and we need to not stand down. This was all of an underlying attempt from that Marjorie Stoneman Douglas commission that made up that Promise was a problem and then came back and said that Promise had nothing to do with the shooting. I don't know where that changed. I talked to several board members, and the board members don't know where it changed. Even the couple of white board members don't know.
Hold on just a second. Now, I will say this. If you all think that Dr. Osgood is apoplectic, you should have seen Marsha Ellison. Okay, I was in the room when it happened. We're working on that, and that's why we are trying to meet with Dr. Smiley. So that's what I said. When we get the date that she is going to give us access to her, I will invite you and Mr. Weeks. I'm just going to make sure that that President Ellison doesn't. I'll be her lawyer that day. that nothing happens. We are aware of it. We met last week with people who didn't really give us answers. I've seen President Ellison just, and I was glad to calm her down. I mean, I'm a volcano. Y'all see the calm on the top, but you don't know what's going on here at the bottom. And y'all know that they couldn't even give me statutes that they kept saying, well, the law changed. They couldn't tell me what. So we're meeting with Dr. Smiley. So as soon as we get that date, if you could just hold on, because one of the reasons why I didn't give a report on the Promise program is because I was asked to hold off until we met with Dr. Smiley. And so the more people that go and they're there, the better. And yes, we do plan to let the public know. Because you all know President Ellison that's her passion. But without her being here to give more specifics, I'm going to curtail the discussion on Promise, but it will be had. It will be held. Trust me. You all can see the problem that we are having, because everything it looks that way, whether they tell you one way or another. You're going to believe their lips or what you see, that everything is being, because of Mr. Cruz, is being blamed on Promise. Okay. And I refuse to believe that, but I'd rather meet with the person that is in charge of the change, as opposed to, we met with 2 people last week. Okay. Almost 3 hours of meeting. And so, Mr. Weeks, I think we told you about that, but you could not attend the meeting. But we're going to Dr. Smiley. Yes.
Madam Chair, I share Senator Osgood's outrage and frustration, because number one, there's a civil citation agreement that we took a lot of time and effort a few years ago to put together the governing civil citation for Broward County. And we followed the statute. We tracked that statute very, very clearly and put it.
I was there. But look, I'm trying to keep the discussion on Promise short until President Ellison. She purposely asked me, because that was going to be a part of my chair's report. But she needs to be present. Okay.
Judge, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But what I want to have be noted for the members in the community that's observing this board and observed it for so many years, is that this board is data-driven board. We have always been data-driven. We're very passionate about data. folks in this board know where the skeletons are and know where the bodies are buried, and the data will always guide you. And when the school board tries, or whatever program tries to undermine a working program, the data is going to decipher that. So it was very, very instrumental, and I applaud the leadership of you, Madam Chair, for setting up that subcommittee to look at that data, because we all may have anecdotal feelings about what's going on because we see a lot of stuff, but when the data tells you what's going on, then we as a community have to respond. We have to always remember that, this board gets a lot of criticism. It gets a lot of, retribution because, we're very passionate about our children, but we're passionate about it for a reason, because the data, the whole reason that we went down this road is because data was showing that too many children of color were getting arrested, expended, and expelled from school at alarming rates. And now we're back we went full circle, and we back at the beginning again, where we're going to see this trend replicate itself all over again. So that's my position on it. I am more than happy to speak to anyone in the school board or anyone involved in the criminal justice system or anyone involved in trying to put these programs together, to give them the history of how we got here, because all they're doing is going right down, walking through the same door that we all recognize was a bad door to walk through, and they're going right down that hole again.
I agree. They are doing things and they're not involving the community. As you all know, they have the school board, they being the school board, they have reopened the position for superintendent. Nobody wants to come here. Okay. And I'm just going to be honest about it, but they have created this quagmire. Okay. And they blame it on one program. If we had said that Mr. Cruz was in the Rotary Club, okay, and he should have been in a Rotary Club meeting at the time, they would have got rid of Rotary Club. Okay, so I understand. I am waiting to hear. Judge Williams was intimately involved in getting the Promise program. I've not heard from him. So, but we're not going to let this silently go by. Okay. But I think we ought to at least hear Dr. Smiley out to find out what she is going to say. When I saw the data, I was wondering, when did the Broward School Board get a police department, Mr. James? So that was not lost on me. I've never seen them in uniforms. I won't ask Judge Rabola because he's not close. He's not in drop yet, but I didn't know they had a police department. So we're working on that. Just trust me, we would be discussing this if Chair Ellison from the NAACP, and who is the secretary of this board, if she were here, we would be discussing it still. She's not happy, but she realizes that we need to at least hear, not from two people that they sent over for a meeting, but for the people that make the decisions. When did this happen? Because if the school board is denying that they didn't have anything to do with it, I mean, can the superintendent unilaterally change a program or dismantle a program? The two people that we spoke to kept saying, well, it's in the statute. I said, well, what statute are you going to? So, I told her, if you show me the statute, I can show you where you're wrong. Okay, so I'm still waiting. But, all they can do is tell us what somebody else told them. I'd rather hear it from Dr. Smiley. And if she can't give us answers, then we need to let the public know. Because the public certainly didn't. Was it done at a school board meeting? Did they violate 286? Did they violate the Sunshine Law? There's a whole lot that can be raised. I just want to hear it from the superintendent, the interim, how this happened, and then find out what they're going to replace it with. So, when you give us data and the data shows something, you can't say, well, you're wrong about the data. Mr. James picked that up right away. Okay. if the school board has a police department and they're issuing citations, civil citations. Okay, so what happened to Promise? Promise was supposed to be, you know, a disciplinary program that didn't involve the police. So we will get to the bottom of that between now and the next meeting. And my right hand raised, so help me God. Trust me, I'm not going on vacation. I'm not doing anything, but waiting for the President Ellison to return. We will set the date, and Mr. Weeks, I sincerely hope that you can be there, or send a rep, send somebody in your office that can speak on your behalf. And Dr. Senator Osgood, I would love for you to be at that meeting because you have a wealth of knowledge, having been the chair of the Broward County School Board. So, you know, the more people with knowledge in a room, we can get to the bottom of this. Yes, Judge Robola.
Madam Chair, I will bring that to Judge Williams' attention because I know he would like to be, obviously, since he had a lot to do with the Promise program, heavily involved in that.
You don't have to let Elijah know. Elijah knows me, okay? And I ain't heard from him, so okay.
You will.
So but that's okay. Yeah, you tell him, tell him about it. But he knows me very well, okay? So like I said, I'm like a volcano. I'm calm on the top, but there's a lot going on here at the bottom. That lava will sprout up soon. So can we move on from the Promise program and table that discussion until we have met with Dr. Smiley and that we have President Marsha Ellison from the NAACP here? Can we all live with that? Okay, does somebody just have a burning testimony? They got to get it out. Mr. Walters?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mine is not exactly about the Promise program, but three of my favorite people on all the earth kind of let me down the other week. I called Marsha Ellison and let her know that I didn't receive the link to the meeting, and she contacted you, and she supposedly contacted the public defender, not his office, but the public defender, and I was told he was sending directly to me an email, and I never got anything. So I didn't attend the meeting, but it's not exactly.
That won't happen again, Mr. Walters. I will promise you that. That will not. What happened was I got a text from the Secretary, President Ellison, who said, "What time is the data meeting today?" I didn't know anything about it. I was on another Zoom call teaching, but I text the public defender, Mr. Weeks. And I said, you know, when is it? You know, give me the information. I'll try to, you know, show up if I can, but I was already in another meeting. He immediately sent me the information. I sent it to President Ellison, and that's the last, because I couldn't make the data meeting because I was already in a meeting. So to that extent, Mr. Walters, I'll make sure you get my phone number. You got a pen in your hand? You got handy?
Yes.
All right.
Judge,
Nobody else in the public.
Judge, you don't have to take it.
Okay, give him my number. Send him.
I'll take full responsibility for it. I double checked the calendar invite, and Ms. Walter, you were on the calendar invite, but sometimes these things go to spam. And next time I will call you and walk you through it. It's my fault.
But make sure I get it in that way. Mr. Walters, take down my number so you can call me.
Okay.
954-562-3392. Now, those of you who are listening in the public and you think you can just call me, I got a blocker, a robo blocker that if you ain't in my contacts, you can't get in touch with me. So don't need to call me and say, I got a legal question, Judge. If you're not in my contacts, you cannot contact me. So Mr. Walters, if you'll send me a text to 954-562-3392, okay, send me a text, and that way I'll have your number and I'll make sure you get notified. Okay, I will accept the blame on that.
I have to call you because I don't text. I only text one time. I said yes to somebody, and it went through. But I will send you an email, and if I can always call you, I hope.
you can call me anytime. The only thing is I need to make sure I get your number in my contact so that it will always come through to me. So I'll send you an email after this meeting and along with my phone number again, so that you'll always be in contact. I accept the blame for that. Mea culpa. Judge Rivola, I plead no contest. What's my sentence?
Thank
All
you,
right.
madam.
You're welcome.
And public defender, I really was shocked when I didn't get one back from you. I said that's my best buddy out there, and he's not even answering me. So I figured either I wasn't needed, or you guys figured I didn't know, one or the other.
I'll give you a call offline and talk to you.
Thank you, man.
You buy him lunch or dinner too, Mr. Weeks. All right, let's move on because we did start late. Is there any word from the work group, Miss Michelle? I think you were looking at how did we lose that? You were going to check to make sure that they were not in custody for the 3. You said, I think that was your answer.
We did, Judge. We did. Mr. James and I communicated, and that's cleared. Yeah.
Okay. So it was a not in custody for those 3. Okay. But shouldn't they still be running it by you if they're juveniles?
Well, it would have came through to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. James, are you satisfied with that for the domestic violence
Yes.
arrest? Okay. All right. Any questions with regard to the domestic violence work group juvenile? Have you seen, Mr. James, any other issues that have come up with youth being, we resolved it last month that, you know, when I asked Miss Gaynor to give me a report, she prefaces her report by saying these were domestic violence batteries. Okay, they're disqualified from the civil citation. We understand that. But are you finding any other, you know, lost in space type issues?
No, Your Honor, not at this time, no.
Okay, great. Excellent. You know what? I never get lawyers to say no. They always say not at this time. Like they're anticipating something that is going to happen later in time.
Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful.
Is he finished?
Meetings
Are
are
we finished with
recorded.
the data? Can you send it back? Send it back. Return to sender. Unopened. Send it to, okay. All right. Let's talk about the civil citations. Now, I'm a little upset. Is Mr. Starling on this call? Can you bring him over, Mr. Weeks, if he is? Okay, and I need Miss Gaynor. Yeah, how you doing, Miss Gaynor? She sent me a very disturbing email, and I didn't get a response until late this morning. And I'm trying to find out what changed, because I've been on this board 3 years now, and we've never had that problem before, that we're waiting for the state, somebody in the state to send things. So Ms. Gaynor, can you tell me about the civil citations and missed opportunities at this time?
Okay, first I'll do the civil citation. There were 45 youth referred to civil citation for the month of April. Battery still remains the top offense. There were also 35 youth who were discharged from the program, 34 of which completed the program successfully. And
well, the one that did not, what happened with that one? The one that did not complete it? Was there reoffending or something like that?
Let me tell you. I don't have all the details, but we have it noted as failure to comply. And typically what a failure to comply for someone who is enrolled in civil citation, typically what that means is that they were not participating in the program. And even after we made every attempt to engage them in their parents, they refused, or they just decided they weren't going to go through with the program.
All right. You have demographics for me on that one? On
that particular
the breakdown
case,
of the 35 in the program?
Okay, so there were 45 who were enrolled in the program, and of that 45 enrolled, 27 were Black, 6 were white, and 12 were Hispanic. there were 22 female and 23 male enrolled.
Well, Mr. James was correct that the female population is now starting to equal or excel and that's a bad statistic. Can that be added to the data subcommittee? The uptick in females involved in criminal activity? Or is that asking for too much? Mr. James, you're allowed to answer that.
Judge, I think that can be added. I believe Ms. Butterfield from DJJ is on the attendee side. She would be the one that would grab that information for us to provide that for us. Mr. Starling, I think that falls within your department sector. So if you guys can give us the information, we can surely decipher it.
Yes, we have the sex listed on the chart as well.
All right, so that's an ask that I know you listed. There were 4, but one is just an umbrella. That's the amount of Black males being
absolutely
part of that overwhelming system. But if we could add females, I want to see where that's trending according to the data. Okay. All right. I interrupted you, Ms. Gaynor. You may continue. I'm sorry.
That was it for the civil citation report. And I know I sent the email earlier, but I have an update since that time.
Excellent. Mr. Starling came through.
Mr. Starling did. We received a missed opportunity report this afternoon. And I will say to you that I've had the opportunity to kind of to separate the data like I usually report it, but I just want to make you aware that we have not had an opportunity we usually look at each case individually and we also send it out to law enforcement. We have not had the opportunity to do that yet. So I'll defer to you as to whether or not you want me to go ahead and report on the numbers.
Well, the numbers don't really mean that much because, we do ask for details. Can you do this for me? Can you, when you maybe later this week, go through the material and send it out to you can send it to me and I'll send it to the board members so that we'll have that, because the only thing we have right now, and here we're in the month of May, we only had February reported to us, and that was at the last meeting. So we need March, April, and then we'll have May by the next meeting. So that's why I want the board to at least get some information. So you'll be reporting on March, April, and then you can report in May at the June meeting. But you can talk about that information that you give us, but I at least want them to have it to see it. So whatever you've got, if you can give it to us.
And just so that you're aware, the information I received today is only for the month of March.
Mr. Starling, we'd like to be up to date, especially if we're going to be making some, decisions and comments about things. The reason why missed opportunities are important to this board is we want to see those police departments that continue to disregard 985.12. That's the civil citation statute. We're really concerned about that. And we want to see, if we can, we have law enforcement on this board, and Colonel Holmes goes down to the chief's meetings a lot, and he can certainly kind of stare them down for us and say, guys, what are you doing? Does Major London go to those meetings, or he just comes to us?
I'm strictly for you all, but I do attend those meetings on occasion.
Okay, you can go and stare at them too. Find out why aren't they using the statute, okay? And it is an administrative order in the 17th Judicial Circuit also. So we'd like to know that information. So Ms. Gaynor, if you could, do a written report to us for the missed opportunities for whatever you have now. And then Mr. Starling, if you could just know that these meetings are important to us to have that information. And we've not had this stalling before. No pun intended.
Understood, Judge.
All right. Anything else that you can report to us, Ms. Gaynor? And as my designee on the data committee, are they treating you good? Are they listening to you?
Oh, no, absolutely. They're an amazing group, and I think John James pretty much summed it up. And the other conversation about the mixing of the data, you already said will be deferred to a later time.
Yes.
So you covered everything.
Okay, Mr. James, you have your hand up. I don't know why you're not back in your cubby hole, but Mr. Weeks. he
Judge,
wants
I
to
just
go
wanted
back.
to point out, I wanted to point out two things really quickly. Well, one thing, but there's 3 points in regards to your missed opportunities. So when Ms. Butterfield provided the data during the last meeting in terms of alternatives to arrest, I'm not sure if anyone paid attention to it with civil citations, but you had 3 agencies in Broward County that's under 50% with issuing civil citations, under 50%. When I'm saying under, I mean they are really under. And that's
Coconut
Coral
Creek.
Springs, Lauderhill,
Yep.
and Coconut Creek. We
Okay.
need to do something, and we gotta figure out a way to do something to address this issue, because this is a huge issue where they're not following what has been agreed upon countywide. I just want to say that we got to look at this. This is a huge issue. You can't be under 50%. You can't tell me that every time you come into contact with a youth that is for a domestic violence or a battery, and that's the reason why you're not issuing the civil. I find that I just can't believe it. I really don't. I find it hard to believe. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, the statute says that the agencies have an opportunity to, they can use the civil citation that's in place that was agreed upon by the state attorney, the public defender, and the clerk of court, and the chief judge, or they can come up with their own civil citation program. I've not seen any of them issue their own program. So unless, but as I said, the statute doesn't give any punishments for violation. So that kind of tells me a whole lot about the legislature passing something that has no, if you violate it, so what? Okay, so why pass laws if there's no consequences? That's my thought pattern. But we can certainly put it out there that, parents, you need to be careful about your children in these cities because they don't follow the law. Okay, so there's a lot we can do, and they want visitors to come to their cities too. Okay, so there's a lot that I'm thinking of that I don't need to voice. I just need the information. Okay, and if we can track it long enough to show that these cities don't care, they don't follow the law. So what's going to happen? Okay, and they can say y'all can't do nothing, but it'll fall on the ears of somebody that really cares about us complaining. So that's why we need the information. Mr. Weeks, did you wish to be heard?
No, Judge, you summed it up correctly. There is voice and or strength in unity of voice, and we all need to get on the same page with the unity of our voice. We've been saying this for far too long, and I think we got to keep saying it to the right people and get folks to get on board.
Eventually, people forget that it won't be this way always, and when the tide changes and the power structure changes, they're gonna say, "Oh, why is that happening?" Because y'all put it in place. Okay, all right. Because I'm biblically minded. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So keep that in mind. All right. Let me move on. Are there any questions? Anybody has of Ms. Gaynor? Yes, Colonel Holmes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make this point. I don't know if everyone, all the board members recall, but myself and Cassandra Evans spoke to the Chiefs of Police Association about the missed opportunities in the civil citation program. And at the time, of course, they say, they're on board with it, but behind closed doors, who knows what goes on. But, like I suggested in the past, and I suggested now, it's important to get into the ears of the city managers, the city officials. They're the ones that these police chiefs report to, and put the pressure on them to force these police chiefs to get on board or else they should be gone. That simple, that simple. So, you know, if we can reiterate that, because it's the same agencies. And it's been that way for 3 years, like you said, Judge Holmes. So if we could just get on, somehow tap into the ears of the city managers, I think that'll make a difference. That was it.
Well, I'm not adverse to meeting with city managers. I guess I have to get one of my suits out and get dressed up and go. I'll take you with me, Colonel. So you can be my witness that I was nice. Okay. Anybody else wish to be heard? All right, let's move on to the, and Ms. Gaynor, thank you. Was there something else that you wanted to add?
Actually,
I saw
was
your
just-
hand up.
There was, but what I was gonna say is that we're going to begin sending out an annual report for the missed opportunity. So my hope is that that report will include from the beginning of the fiscal year until the end of the fiscal year. The only thing I would ask is it the preference of this board that the data includes the county fiscal year, which is how we report out our data? Our fiscal year starts October 1st, or if the preference is for it to be DJJ's fiscal year.
Let's use DJJ since we use their stats and they collect stats on us. Ms. Butterfield, won't you chime in on this? If we use DJJ's calendar, which is what, July 1, June 30th?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, if we use, because those are the statistics that you are putting out about this board and the citations and arrests and things of that nature, right?
Is that question for me?
Yeah.
No, so I was gonna say that they have a separate fiscal year, so I just want you to be aware that when you see the data, it may vary slightly because we're capturing a different time period.
Okay. Can you like add a footnote that, you know, we're using this because this is the county's fiscal year as opposed to DJJ's fiscal year? I want whatever report's gonna show the most. That's really what I need it to show.
Okay. I'll look at the data both ways once I receive the data.
Okay.
And we'll go from there.
All right. All right, thank you so much. Anything, Mr. Walters, any questions of Ms. Gaynor?
No, Madam Chair. You guys are doing an excellent job, and I'm taking in consideration what my grandmother said, and that is you learn more when you're listening than you do when you're talking.
Okay. Well, we got 30 minutes, and even though we started late, I think we're going to meet everything that's on our agenda. Mr. Weeks, you asked to agenda the clear backpack mandate for the next school year. The floor is yours.
Madam Chair, I appreciate you allowing us to even have a conversation on this. This is a forward projection that we need to be able to monitor. Clear backpacks is the school board's response to, I really don't know what it's a response to, because they really
the guns in the backpack. That's what it's in response to.
You know, they introduced this to the whole county. I don't think there was much dialogue amongst the community. And if you look at trends across the nation where they've introduced these clear backpacks, I don't think they've been very effective in doing anything but increasing the sale of clear backpacks. The reality is, and we have to understand that there are unintended consequences for every decision that you make. Clear backpacks, are they going to prevent the introduction of weapons? Because children still have pockets, and they still have hoodies with pockets, and they still have jackets with pockets. So are we going to make them wear clear clothing in order for you to be able to see everything in their pockets, because a clear backpack only does, in my opinion, and I'm speaking as a parent with children in Broward County schools, that when a child puts their laptop, their cell phone, or any other items they bring from their home into the backpack, and now becomes a opportunity to increase or to have an increase in the number of thefts in school. And I'm very concerned about that notion that children, and particularly young girls, and I know they put a provision that they can have their toiletry items in a smaller bag, but what are we doing? Are we sending a message to children that we just don't trust them? There is a unspoken agreement between children and the school system, that there's a level of respect that you have back and forth, that you model that respect, and hopefully those children will learn that and model it back towards you. You know, we can take all the doors off of every parent's bedroom of every child and make, you know, we can make every child sleep in the living room so we can watch everything they do. We can hover over them like helicopters and see everything, every move they make. But children are going to be children. So I'm very, very concerned about criminalizing and creating additional ways to criminalize children's behavior. And only thing I can think of that's going to come from these clear backpacks is more children are going to be enticed or engaged in theft-related items, because now everyone can see what's in someone's backpack, or bullying-related items because children are placing things in their backpacks that they otherwise would be embarrassed about, and now other children are being exposed to it. I just don't understand the logic behind it. And the problem is that we in the juvenile justice system, we in the criminal system are going to see the impacts of this without any tools to address it, because the school has decided that clear backpacks is the way to solve whatever issues that are going on in school. What happened to support for the children? What happened to therapy? What happened to psychologists, sociologists, and social workers? What happened to finding out whether the children are eating and whether they have, you know, a roof over their head, whether they have a stable environment, whether they have a supportive environment, whether they're going through any trauma? But clear backpacks is going to solve all that. And I'm telling you, if we don't start having these honest conversations and monitoring this throughout, you know, we're already seeing a bunch of civil citations, and I'm projecting that we're going to see a bunch of thefts as a result, as related to it, because children are going to have cameras, cell phones, laptops, any other item that's of value in that clear backpack for the whole world to see. So I just wanted to put that out there for this board, particularly in law enforcement, particularly in community activists, and, you know, Senator Osgood, to get some feedback on the thoughts behind how do we monitor this and what other alternatives we offer to the school board to have a better approach when it comes to our children.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weeks. Dr. Senator Osgood.
Thank you, Judge Holmes. Mr. Weeks, that is not a state mandate, as we know. It's something that Broward Schools has chosen to do. It's not required for all the states. And it is an overreaction. We have, I'll admit, some extremely insane things going on in Tallahassee and coming from Tallahassee. We also have a few good things. I'll try to be balanced in my conversation, but we cannot overreact and make major decisions like that when it relates to our children without community engagement. Community engagement with various stakeholders, law enforcement, nonprofits, parents, it gives you a better conversation to come to a better decision and a better conclusion. What we continue to have right now is something happen and our school district just responds. We have some great people on the school board, but they're not really focused on children or understand the environment that you need to have for children to grow and be successful. Girls need privacy. We have many things in our purse and pocketbook that won't fit in an enclosed bag. That's why we like, some of them like big bags. I'm tomboy, so you very rarely see me with a purse. I'm just that way. But this is something that should have been vetted, and it should have been talked through so that we can have the appropriate strategy for it. So it's not a state mandate. That's the first thing. When policies come out of Tallahassee, we have to really understand what's allowable and what's not allowable, and not just overreact and make these major decisions like this. None of our kids were even talked to. I've been talking to high schoolers, they would never ask. I remember with MSD, I think we tried clear backpacks for like maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and it just doesn't work. Think about all of the organizations that support our schools that ordered their back to school backpacks and supplies last year, that have already put deposits on those things. Now they got to go back and try to get those vendors to provide clear backpacks. I think this is a conversation that we should have as we're having the conversation about promise, and more so about how these decisions are made. Certainly we trust our educators, we trust our superintendent to lead, but we have to have all of the disciplines talking. We got to know how it's going to impact law enforcement, how it's going to impact, from a psychological perspective, because we just can't just do it because what are we reacting to? The girl made those threats on social media. They were on social media. What are we reacting to? How many guns are we really finding in book bags? It's the data showing that it's to the extreme that it's a problem. What about the knives that are kept in the kids' socks? And I could just go into a whole bunch of other things that I know from being in the district. What about the fighting that we never address and deal with? These are the collective conversations that we have to have around violence to get a true solution, not do more things that's going to put our children in jail. I'm praying, Judge Holmes, I might have to find me some people to start a school so I can take all my babies and make sure that they're protected. I'm just running out of options, but I'm back up now where I'm not sleeping about this school board stuff. And then people will say that I need to move on. Well, I can't move on. I love kids. I'm a mom. I'm an advocate. I love this community. And it just pains my heart to what's happening right now, because we're not having conversations broader with the community. I love this community. I trust this community to help us make good decisions when it comes to our kids. I don't see it as just something for the school board. So I think that goes on our list, but we can start having conversations now with school board members, because they can overturn that. And it doesn't matter how we feel about them personally. Wrong is wrong if it's going to jeopardize our kids and criminalize them. So we all know people on the school board. We need to reach out to them so they don't feel like it's just me, can't move on. I can't when things are hurting the kids. We work too hard for these things not to be happening.
And I might add that those backpacks are not cheap. Even on Amazon.com, I think the cheapest one I saw was $17.99 for a clear backpack, and it wasn't one of the larger ones. However, that may be something that we could, not maybe, but will be brought up with Dr. Smiley. Sometimes I wonder how much money has the school board set aside to settle lawsuits, because I hadn't really thought about the rash and thefts and crimes that would occur just because somebody can see what you're carrying. I will be honest with you, I would never carry a clear purse or a clear backpack because I'm not trying to be a robbery magnet. And children don't think like adults do. So maybe they got enough set aside that they're willing to, the fights after school trying to steal what's in the backpack, because now they know everything that you got in there. They can see it. So maybe they got a storehouse set aside. And then Judge Robolo, get ready for the robbery by sudden snatching and the grand thefts. So Mr. Weeks, you may want to hire 2 or 3 more assistants to help out in juvenile. Colonel Holmes, you may need to, put some more officers, some deputies out there, because, I can see the snatchings. and the beating up, the robbery. That's what it is. Kids don't want to part with it. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but when folks can see what you got and they don't have it and they want it, I mean, has law enforcement thought about that, Colonel Holmes?
You're absolutely right. It's a scary thought for us. The way we look at it is like you said, when bad people see what they want, they take the opportunity to go after it, and a lot of them don't care whether they harm someone or not. You know, they want what they want, and they're going to go after it. So we're just keeping our fingers crossed that things change and things stay at a minimum, because it's a scary thought for us. It definitely makes us work a lot harder, brings a lot more cases to us.
Ms. Mashala, have you thought about that?
I have, Judge. I'm glad that Mr. Weeks brought this up today and Dr. Osgood commented on it. As a parent, I'm offended. I'm a parent in the public school system as well. I am questioning whether I want to remain with my last child because I've got one graduating, one's already moved on. But as a prosecutor, I was trying to process, I was trying to understand the logic behind it, right? Because as a prosecutor, as the public defender, we see what crimes are being presented to our juvenile justice system. So I was trying to give the school board the benefit of the doubt and thinking that, all right, if you have clear backpacks, then I guess that takes that mystery out for security in the schools about whether a youth is bringing something in with a backpack. However, as we spoke about for several minutes, that we're a data-driven board, I want to know the data, because I see the cases that come through my office. Mr. Weeks's office sees the cases that we actually file, and I'm trying to figure out how we got from 0 to 60 without anything in between, telling us that there's been such a serious increase. And don't get me wrong, it concerns me every day that there could be kids hiding things in a backpack. Just as Mr. Weeks pointed out, they could be hiding it in a pocket. We see that as well, or anywhere else on their person. As Dr. Osgood was saying, I question it as a knee-jerk reaction, and I'm offended that the school board and the school district constantly make decisions that either they're not presenting it to the parent public, but they're also not even including the juvenile justice system in some of this decision-making process. Because when it comes to things like written threat, the fighting that's going on in parts of the district, weapons that might be brought into school or not, I mean, we have a handle, we have sort of our finger on the pulse of what trends we're seeing in the district, where things might be happening in some schools over other schools, the types of things that Mr. James and I are now looking at in this subcommittee with statistics. And so I don't see how we can't try to find a way to have a conversation with this school board about this backpack thing without them being able to present data to us because trust me, if there was data that showed us that it was going to make a difference and we thought there is something, I actually am concerned that there's something that they're not reporting to my office. If there is this increase in weapons that we're not aware of all of a sudden, or law enforcement is not on that in that conversation, then I have grave concerns about that as well. But I do think it's a knee-jerk reaction. They did that knee-jerk reaction back during MSD. The student population is the ones that fought back. They went to school the very next day and filled all of their backpacks up with tampons, both young men and women, right? And Dr. Osgood is correct. I was completely offended back then as a female. I mean, middle school and high school, the most important formative years, as we all know, for children and for girls. To not be, it offends me that they can't even bring a purse into a football game, but you can bring a diaper bag. What if I need to bring personal hygiene items into a football game? The school district already took that away from us. I don't know how much the board is aware of that, but at school events, you cannot carry. Every time I went to a game for my son, the only thing I could bring was a cell phone and my car keys. You cannot carry a bag in. I don't know what young girls were doing, honestly. And you could bring a diaper bag, and I don't know why that applied, because most of the times when you go into those events, there's usually not little kids in tow or babies. That's a minor issue to me compared to the young women who could not bring in their personal items. And to suggest that it's going to be satisfied by the fact that they can put one small bag inside their plastic bag. Well, what does that tell the world? Well, this week I'm on my cycle. I mean, I hate to be blunt about it, but it's messaging. And then that creates bullying. What if other girls and boys want to make fun of you? Because I mean, the fallout from that to me, I'm sorry, I know I'm venting, but I've been wanting to talk about this because I'm so frustrated as a parent, as a woman, and as a prosecutor. So thank you for that.
Thank you. All right, so this is what I would suggest. We all are individuals, and those of you who have children in the school system, now's the time to write letters, to send letters to the school board. Mr. Weeks, if you want to go, this is why it's important that we have that meeting with Dr. Smiley, okay? But as Dr. Osgood pointed out, reach out to the school board members also and say, this is not well thought out. There's some pros and there's some cons here. I don't mind, getting involved with that. But like I said, the bottom line is, how much have we set aside of my tax dollars to pay for suits when there are assaults? We're kind of spearheading and looking in at the offender, but there's a victim. Okay, and they love to look. We have become a very litigious society. Okay, and so when the fights break out, the bullying, and then the lawsuit against the school board, that's money that could be allocated to pay teachers a lot more. That's money that could improve the lunches that the kids eat. There's a whole lot of other avenues that can be provided if we do that. So look, write letters. We'll bring that up with Dr. Smiley, but if you all can think of anything that this CAB can do, it's not really a DJJ issue yet, but it's coming. I see the sudden snatchings right away. That's the first thing that came to mind. Okay, and then the robberies, because if the person is holding on to their backpack and punches are thrown, that becomes a robbery, because that's the violence to take something of value. So y'all think about it, and I'm glad I don't have to be in the courtroom. I just life is so good. Okay, real quick, how many juveniles do we have in the Broward County Jail? Colonel Holmes?
Okay, right now we currently have 11 males and 0 females, juveniles that are housed in our facilities. They're all housed at the Paul Ryan facility up in Pompano Beach, and we have 0 COVID cases. Actually, we have 0 COVID cases across our whole system right now. This is as of last Friday, May 5th.
But be on the lookout. There's a new strain that presents itself as pink eye, conjunctivitis. And so somebody may, even, you look around, if they haven't been crying and they got pink eye, be careful, because that's one of the symptoms of this new strain of COVID.
Okay, I'll mention that to the colonel.
Okay.
Be aware.
All right. I always like to ask this, because one day they're going to tell me how many they really have. Victor London, Major, how many juveniles you got in your jail?
0.
Okay. Did you check?
Every day.
All right. Mr. Starling, how many youth are we holding in detention?
We have 46 males and we have 5 females. And out of the 47, out of the 46 males, 7 are white and the others are black. And out of the 5 females, all are black females.
We got to do better. We got to do better.
Judge, can Mr. Stallings repeat those numbers, please, Mr. Sterling?
Yeah, Mr. Starling, if you repeat that again.
Oh, sure. So we have 46 males. There are 46 males. There are 5 females. 7 of the 46, 7 of the 51 kids are white. And we have, obviously, all 5 females are black females.
So to repeat that, there are 46 males in detention, 7 of which are white, the rest of them are Black, 5 females, and all of those are Black females.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and now legislators don't have to get permission to come visit you guys, so expect visits over the summer. We are making our way around the state to visit those facilities. So there's certain categories now that don't have to get permission, so we are planning to pop up.
Okay, any COVID of those detainees?
None that I'm aware of, Judge.
Okay, but
None
can
here.
you just put them on alert that pink eye is something is real, and because conjunctivitis it's very contagious. It's more contagious than COVID itself.
Yes,
So,
our medical staff, they are aware.
Okay.
As part of our, we still have our protocols when it comes to the medical clearances and ensuring that all kids are seen by the medical department upon being
Okay.
admitted.
all right, sounds good. Thank you. All right, anything from the legislature, Mr. Weeks and Dr. Senator Osgood, that we ought to be aware of, that we haven't already read in the newspaper? We know what's coming.
I'll defer to Senator Osgood, and I wanted some feedback from Chief Starling.
Well, we got 7 minutes left in this meeting. Remember, we kind of started late because we had to wait for a quorum.
I cannot give any update on the detention center. Although the budget has been signed, I have not yet been.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Starling, do you know if we're getting a new detention center?
Well, everything that the secretary had on the table was favorable. So it's just a matter of the governor signing off and it's not being vetoed. So at this point, we haven't gotten the final signature just yet. But certainly everyone endorses what the secretary proposed as far as a new detention center for the 3 counties.
Just a new housing for our Black kids. I hate to say that, but that's all I saw when I visited.
Yeah. Can I add one thing, Madam Chair?
You may.
I'll be remiss. John James, he's done a remarkable job. I want to say, as far as taking the lead with the committee and as far as his ability to be able to really keep us focused and guided, and as far as his perceptions as relates to our data points. So I think we're on the right track as far as having a subcommittee. As his boss, Gordon Weeks, indicated, we're going to let the data kind of take us where it takes us, and it's going to reveal the things that need to be revealed. We all have the same, invested interest in improving the outcomes for our young kids just as well, and also ensuring that public safety is not compromised simultaneously.
Right. Just go on and admit it. Broward is on the ball. We don't just
You
meet.
can say it out loud. You can say it. I want to get that sound bite.
I don't. Can you fix your lips to say it, Mr. Starling? Broward is on the ball.
And we're off and running. There are some things that we want to get done. We're off and running. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else that we have not discussed that anybody wants to raise?
I'll just say briefly, thank you to Mr. Weeks and this board for your work with the detention center and those funds. I was willing to carry the water, but it was already in the secretary's budget. I appreciate that. I'm going to do a series of legislative updates with Madam President and just across to continue to try to educate people and to correct some of the stuff that you see in the newspaper and on Twitter. I just want to drop these statistics. Data is very important as it relates to the legislative process. There were 1,873 bills in PCS introduced this legislative session. There were 3,229 votes taken, 46 floor sessions where legislators actually met to vote on bills, 356 bills that passed both chambers. It's very important. All happened in 60 days. Imagine that. During this process, I think going forward, it's very important when the session is meeting that we pay attention to the process, something we don't talk about a lot, because a bill can come out on Thursday and Monday morning, by the time it hits the floor, it's a strike all amendment and it's a totally new bill. Very important. I would also like to brag a little bit, which is hard for me to do, but I had an actually very good legislative session. I was well prayed up and well prepared, built a lot of relationships across the aisle that we were successful in getting $10 million $927,920 in the Senate budget for Broward County, and then getting it matched with some hardworking legislators like Representative Campbell, Representative Williams, Representative Dunkley, to get it matched on the House side. Those items are in the budget and has to go through the governor's blue pen. I'm hoping that God will not bring my
He
name.
uses a blue pen?
Yeah, I'm hoping that God would not bring my name to his remembrance, that he won't hurt my community because of it. But I will say that you saw a lot of egregious legislation, which means there is some work that we have to do on our end that we'll certainly talk about going forward. But there were some good things that happened. I co-sponsored Bill 52.
We got 1 minute.
I'll finish. I co-sponsored Senate Bill 52 with Senator Burgess, bipartisan, to prohibit children from using social media during school time. Now, I lost a lot of cool points with my kids, but it was an adult decision that we don't want to happen. I think it's going to help with bullying. I think it's going to help with school threats. It's going to help with fights after school. So I'm looking forward to that legislation. That legislation is also going to require kids to teach social media safety. We just turned our kids over to social media without any training. So stay tuned, pay attention. If you're not on my district distribution list, please email me at osgood.roslyn@floridasenate.gov so we can put you on there. We do weekly updates. We try to break it down so you're informed about what's happening. Thank you, Judge Holmes.
All right, real quick. Some states are banning TikTok. Is that happening here in Florida?
So in Florida, we've already banned it on all government devices. That was what we could do legally. We are looking to ban it further because we believe if they can censor that guy, then they should be able to censor some of the stuff that come through with the threats and stuff on there. So we did start with banning it from all government devices first.
Okay. Yes. Good.
Sure.
We got 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Did somebody wish to be heard? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Madam Chair.
All right, it requires no second. Thank you all. We've been very productive, and you all will be hearing from me about the meeting with Dr. Smiley. You all enjoy your weekend. Those of you who bank with Wells Fargo, it's the weekend.
Excellent meeting, everyone, and
Right.
great work, Osgood, Senator Osgood. You do a fabulous job up there in a very, very tough climate. I appreciate you.
All right. God bless you all. Bye-bye.